A low-budget Australian horror flick is scaring audiences into unconsciousness. Here's why Talk to Me is one of the scariest films of the year. 2023 has certainly given all those aspiring filmmakers on YouTube a good reason to keep chasing their dreams. First, there was the underground success of Skinamarink, an avant-garde horror film that was conceived by writer and director Kyle Edward Ball, back when he was operating his YouTube channel, Bite-Sized Nightmares. Now, Danny and Michael Filippo, the Australian brothers who have amassed millions of subscribers thanks to their horror comedy shorts on their YouTube channel, Raka Raka, are riding a wave of critical accolades, thanks to their feature directing debut, Talk to Me. The film centers on a group of Australian teenagers who decide to mess with a supernatural artifact in the shape of an embalmed hand, only to learn the hard way what happens when you recklessly meddle with these sorts of things. Chris Evangelista reviewed Talk to Me for Slash Film at the Sundance Film Festival, calling it, quote, a wonderfully nasty little Australian horror flick, full of icky, gory violence and terror that recalls Sam Raimi's Evil Dead films. In fact, it's that same bloody mayhem that supposedly left certain audience members queasy at early screenings of the film ahead of its theatrical release. In an interview with Yahoo Entertainment, the Filippo brothers recalled what happened at a showing in Australia. Danny alleged, people were fainting. It's happened in some of the screenings. One of the scenes is a bit intense, so people have been reacting, fainting. Is that true? Maybe, but at the very least, it's a great way of hyping Talk to Me for gorehounds who fancy themselves a challenge.
What did the hand feel like?
It felt amazing.
It's possible that part of the reason Talk to Me is having such a visceral effect on people is that it starts out as a real slice-of-life story about teenagers dealing with ordinary problems, before taking a turn for the bizarre and grotesque. When Jacob Hall interviewed the Filippo brothers for Slash Film, they admitted part of their goal was to paint a truly genuine portrait of what suburban Australian teens are like, based on their own lived experience. Danny said, I just looked at the characters and just tried to capture Australian youth a little bit, and sort of put them on screen. I think we've seen a lot of amazing outback films or beachside Australian films, but I hadn't seen Australian suburbia, or teenagers that felt and spoke authentically on screen. It seemed to be a rare thing. To do that, the Filippo brothers worked closely with the film's young and lesser-known lead actors to help them really nail down how they would naturally deliver their lines and behave as their characters. The relative newcomers also had the advantage of not carrying any baggage with them from previous roles, which makes it easier for viewers to buy into their characters and really feel for them once their lives take a turn for the nightmarish.
What if we opened the door but we didn't shut it?
Talk to Me is arriving just a few months after the release of the latest Evil Dead film, Evil Dead Rise, which was also full to the brim with nasty, malevolent specters and splattery kills. In that case, however, the gleefully gruesome carnage was rooted in a story about a relatable family fighting to make it out alive. As blood-soaked as the proceedings get in Evil Dead Rise, the most unsettling moments only hit as hard as they do because they're rooted in the characters and their struggles. This is also what the Filippo brothers see as the key to Talk to Me, and its efforts to sustain a pervading atmosphere of dread and discomfort once the bodies start hitting the floor. Michael Filippo said in his interview with Slash Film, all those jump scares, it's not relying on external sources that are not tied to the character in some way. I think the scares maybe work a bit more because you understand the consequences of what's happening to their friends and the world around them. Does Talk to Me actually live up to the hype? Everyone can decide for themselves by checking out the film, which is currently playing in theaters.